So how many of you are sick of Combiner Wars Megatron inability to make any decent poses because of the ratchet joints in the shoulders and the hips? I'm actually going to do a mod today, a super easy mod, a non-permanent mod, that will allow you to get better range of motion from the hips. I'm actually not going to talk about the shoulders. I'm going to put a link in the description from a video that I watched about a super simple shoulder fix. I don't remember the name of the YouTuber, but it'll be in the description. So we're not going to deal with that, but I will say that on the right arm, when I did the shoulder mod, I used a bigger rubber band, a longer one than I did on the left one, simply because it provided more tension for the heavier right arm with the fusion cannon. Oh, and I'm also going to talk about a mod for the ratchet joint for the tank turret rotation. And then I am going to do a permanent mod on on the crotch for my own personal preference. But the two mods for the ratchet joint fixes that I'm going to show today are non-permanent, and they're super simple. So one of the major complaints that people have tried to mod the hips on this Combiner Wars Megatron have had, one of the complaints has been that they can't get the actual thigh portions of the leg apart. When you unscrew these screws here, the thighs don't come apart. And when you try and unscrew these screws right here, the pin in the knee joint actually prevents that part of the thigh from coming apart. So you can't, there's no way to get the thigh apart. So I found a little workaround with that. I've seen a couple of reviews online where people have attempted to take apart these thighs and actually done some damage to the toy. So we're going to take the screws out of the pelvic portion of the toy. And when you do this, bear in mind that his little hip skirts, they will fall apart when you take the two halves of the pelvis apart. So we got our screw out. Always have a little bowl or something to put them in. And then we pull this apart. There we go. And everything, oh, that's right. Everything falls apart, except there is a pin right here. And you can see I've already partially pushed it out. Now, normally when you deal with pin hinges on toys, the best way to get them out is to actually boil that portion of the toy in water, barring any stickers, electronics, what have you. I didn't have to boil it. I just took a thin tool. I have a case of a whole bunch of different sets of screws and screw heads. And I just took one of the smaller ones and I just pushed the pin out. And it took a little bit of strength, but it did ultimately just come out. Now I've kind of pushed it back in, so I'm going to push it out for you. But it honestly just came out in the, one of the little tips for that is look on the two sides of the hole, the two sides where you can see the heads of the pin. You want to push on the end of the pin that's deeper in the hole, if that makes any sense. So like I said, it was actually really easy to get that pin out. It did take a little bit of strength, but I didn't have to boil anything, because trying to boil this part of this toy, this big toy, I think it would have been difficult, and I don't know if it would have had an adverse effect on the paints. So you may be of the mind that you don't have to take that pin out to do the non-permanent mod, but you do. It actually holds the two sections of the pelvis together. And here is the simplicity of this fix. So these are our two Megatron legs. And there's the hips there. And the hip joint that goes outward is ratcheted. Just rotate it to the other side and make the right leg a left leg. Same thing for the other side. And the detents are actually not on the other side of the joint. Smooth, ratcheted. So you just end up using the smooth tension of that joint rather than the ratchets. So, and then you just put it back together. While this modification uses the rotating hip joint that isn't actually necessary for the transformation, now we have to use it in order to get the robot to tank mode. Rotate the pelvis 180, and then you rotate the hips 180, and it actually gets everything back into position so that you can transform into tank mode without any problems. The only issue is that the back of the tank is made from the inside of this crotch plate, which I always thought looked ugly. It's got the little mini-con port there. What it does is it actually puts the top of the pelvis showing up, and it doesn't raise up high enough to meet flush with the back end of the tank. So that's actually what my permanent mod's going to be for near the end of the video. Now, like I said, I've already done the shoulder mod, so as you can see, the shoulder movement is actually very smooth. The tank turret mod. What you do is you just lift up the chest there. So we just take our Phillips head screwdriver and we just take this portion out. This whole section just pops right on out. We look inside the cavity. See that little piece right there? I've already turned it around, but it's got that little nub on it that catches the ratchet joint on the other side of the tank turret joint. You don't even need to take this out. I just flipped it around. The turret now moves smoothly, 180, 360, whatever, without those ratchet joints making it feel like it's going to actually fall to pieces. This is my G1 Megatron right here. This is my G1 style Megatron. It's a giant tank. It's Megatron. It's covered in this beautiful silver paint. It looks like him. And like I said, I wasn't bothered by the joints before, but yesterday it started bothering me. So I just did this mod. I'm so happy with it. I'm going to begin the permanent mod, which it's probably going to be easier to do without the hips on. So effectively what I need to happen, what I need this mod to accomplish, is this crotch piece stops right about there on the tank mode. The back shelf is higher than that, so it's got this gap with this crotch plate drop down. So I'm going to cut right here so that this joint can swivel a little bit higher and get up into position. You see it's coming out of place when I push it that far. Now I've got this Drill Master, totally a knockoff of some better company, little Dremel tool here. I got it for super cheap off eBay. It just came in a box with a bunch of Ziploc bags that had all the drill bits in it. So it's not the best, but it gets the job done. So, you know, you get what you pay for, but at the same time, it really works. And actually, if you wanted to get rid of the ratchet joints on the forward motion on the hips, it looks like you could take those out. You might need a tool or something or a pin to get them out and probably turn them around so you don't lose them. Let's get started. And wow, I may have taken out a little bit more than I'd planned on, but I don't think I damaged him structurally. He's going to have a pretty significant butthole there, but not really a problem. It's a little wonky on the back, but I feel like this is a suitable compromise for the tank mode looking better in the back. You got to plug the hips together like that, then put them in the crotch piece. And then I'm going to plug it onto the mushroom peg of the body. Instead of trying to hold the hip skirts on there, put the screws in, but don't tighten them all the way. Then pop the hip skirts on and finish tightening the screws. Oh, woo! Something cracked. Didn't I just say not to tighten the screw all the way? I'm not even listening to my own advice.
Good job.
Yeah. You know what, Joy? I don't want to hear any crap from you. You're playing Far Cry on easy and you're still losing.
I'm playing it on easy.
Yeah, you are. You said you put it on easy mode.
Yeah, to begin with.
Oh, you're playing harder now?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm almost proud of you. Toy is mostly together. We're just going to spread his legs. Oh. And then we put the crotch piece back on. I'm actually going to push the pin all the way in this time. I don't need the thin tool. I'm just going to use the tip of the screwdriver. This is one of the great things about this toy is, yeah, you can't get the hips apart, but there is a workaround. The robot legs are actually backwards now. So you'll notice that these joints for the transformation are on the insides of his legs instead of the outside. The exposed treads outside of the leg and the pseudo gun handle grip are no longer on the outside, they're on the inside. Now for me personally, I actually kind of like this better because I'm not super about all the like perfect homages that these generations toys make. So I kind of like that the tread kibble, which is actually nicely stored inside the calf there, is on the outside. That makes it more important. He's more about his tank mode than homaging the gun mode from the G1 toy. The advantage with this is now you can detach the leg there for that transformation joint, and if you don't move it too much, you can actually get a little bit of an outward stance and then working with the sort of rocking, not intended ankle joint there, you get a more natural pose for the robot. And as for the tank mode, there are no drawbacks. Like I said, you do have to rotate the hips and then rotate the thighs to get it into tank mode. And that does put the pelvic portion in a different formation, but with that mod that I did, I can raise it up and sort of rest it on this back shelf, and it's more flush. I think it looks better than the inside of the pelvis that used to be visible. I don't care about minicon ports, so it doesn't bother me that that's no longer accessible. So ends the mod video for Combiner Wars Leader Class Megatron, fixing the hips, fixing the tank turret, and fixing the pelvis portion on the back of the tank there. Like I said, check the link in the description to fix the shoulders. You guys have a good one. Thanks for watching.